Hi, friends. Welcome to another midweek message from Selkirk United Church. I'm Cole. It's Wednesday, July 8th as I record this today. We are well into summer and some hot weather this last while. I hope that you're all finding ways to stay cool and safe and connected and well. First things first today, I need to tell you about a very good sacrilegion gathering that we had yesterday using Zoom. There were just 3 of us this week, which was less than usual, but when there are only a few people, it brings a different dynamic. People can really share what's on their minds, and there isn't as much waiting for your turn to talk. It was a really good session. I should confess to you that I messed up at the beginning of the call. One of the participants was having trouble accessing the Zoom call. She tried her computer, she tried her phone. She could see us, but not hear us. We could see her, but not hear her. I don't think any of that was my fault, just some technology problems. But while that was happening, I was noticing what's called the waiting room in the Zoom app. As host of the meeting, I can see the names of people waiting to be allowed into the online chat room, and then I have to click a button and let them in. And there was one name that I didn't recognize at all, never heard of them. I have heard about hackers and spammers who somehow show up in the middle of your meetings and hijack the conversation, sometimes even saying horrible, inappropriate, crude things, cursing and causing all sorts of problems. So I knew I didn't want that to happen. I mean, we say everyone's welcome, but I guess there's a limit when there are people who are wanting to sabotage your meeting. Anyway, being cautious, I just left that person in the waiting room until they finally just disappeared. I only found out later on that that was actually the woman who was having trouble with her phone, and she had signed in with her son-in-law's computer, which would have worked perfectly, I'm sure, but since it showed up using his name instead of hers and I didn't recognize it, I wouldn't allow her into the chat room. Oops. So fair warning to everyone out there. If you are going to use a pseudonym or an alias or fake ID to try to get into one of our sacrilegion gatherings, that's fine. You're more than welcome to do that. Just let me know about it first so I don't block you. By the way, we have another gathering coming up next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Central Time, and they really are open to all of you. So if you want to see some familiar faces and have some good conversation, then let me know and I will send you an invite. You can contact me by email, which is cole@selkirkunitedchurch.ca. I'd love to see more of you join us, whether the gatherings are big or small. It's always a good way to connect with each other and support one another and talk about some important issues at the same time. Our topic yesterday, by the way, was based on a survey on spirituality that I found in the latest issue of Broadview magazine, which is our United Church's national publication. It used to be called The Observer. They surveyed younger people under the age of 23 and asked them questions about church and faith and spirituality and activism, and we talked about some of the results. A very good session. Speaking of Broadview magazine, this latest issue, the July-August issue, has some very good articles in it. I wanted to touch on one of them today in this midweek message. It's actually the cover story, and it was written by a colleague of mine, Reverend Tricia Elliott, who is a United Church minister at a church in Ottawa. The article was called Church in a Pandemic, and it's a very good, very thorough look at how our whole United Church of Canada, as well as some specific churches in particular, have continued to exist and to serve and to worship during these past 4 months. She talks about the challenges of having to shut down before Easter, just when we were ready to talk about resurrection and rebirth, and also at a time when many churches are used to having their pews fill up. And here we were locking the doors instead and asking the question, how long, O Lord? And wondering when things would get back to normal. Tricia said the answer to that question is never. She said churches won't be the same because we, as people, are not the same. And I think that's true. We have learned to adapt to so many changes in the past few months, and we have made the best of some very challenging situations. And we are learning a lot about ourselves, who we are, what we need, what we can do without, what we can't do without. And one of the things that we're discovering is that many, many people can't do without their faith and the sense of social interaction that comes with being part of a community of faith. So we are finding new ways to meet that need in many of our churches, and we are actually attracting some new people to this new model. And there are some positives in that we need to remember as we look to what the future might look like. The article is a very good read, and I highly recommend it if you have a chance to pick up a copy of Broadview. It's actually a very good way to stay connected to the wider church, whether it's through subscribing to the magazine or just picking up one of the extra few copies we keep at the church each month. In the article, Reverend Elliott wonders about why online worship seems to be, in many cases, attracting bigger numbers than services at the church ever did, and she thinks it could be that anxious people look to the church for comfort, and we have a lot of anxious people in our communities right now. Or perhaps it's easier to drop into an online service than to darken a church door if you haven't been in a while. Probably a little of both. She also talks about whether this is a good time for some churches to have a deeper discussion about the future of their buildings and how important our church buildings might be in the future. There are definitely two sides to consider there, and she does a good job of looking at both of them. After talking about how this pandemic has brought out both the best in us, as we've shown gratitude to the heroes around us and been supportive of one another in some new and innovative ways, and the worst in us, including supermarket frenzies, hoarding, squabbles, and worse, she ended up by talking about what is most important for our churches to consider as we move into the future. Will we continue to advocate, as we always have, for the most vulnerable people in God's family, whoever and wherever they are? Will we continue to wrestle with the big questions as we figure out new ways of faithfully pursuing God's call? Will we continue to be disciples of Jesus, following his examples of seeking justice and living love? Society hungers for those values now more than ever, and God asks us to be leaders and role models as we journey on. There was another very good article that I wanted to talk about, but I will save that for next week's message. In the meantime, I hope that you continue to reach out to those who are in need. And if you are one of those who are in need, then I hope that you will reach out to us. You are all part of a wider church family that cares about all of our members. So we want to hear from you. Also, keep sending in your prayer requests, especially any new ones that we may not know about. Send in your celebrations that you'd like to share with the rest of the congregation. We'll announce some of those on Sunday. And remember, the deadline for getting those in for recording on Sunday is Thursday at noon, so send those in quickly. We are also still looking for some more of your favorite hymn lists. Send those in too. You can send all of those things in to me this week. The email again is cole@selkirkunitedchurch.ca. And that's it for this week. I hope you tune in on Sunday, and I hope you all stay safe and take good care. God be with you. We'll see you next time.